This one is going to need some bleach. So now that I have taken all the paints out of where I had them stored, which I'm not sure if you remember if you've been watching my videos, but I had it in an Eastlake china cabinet, and I refinished the cabinet, and it's too nice to put the paints back in it. So I have all my paints stored over on the side, and I have a lot of work to do in my barn. You know, it can always get better. I rearrange it and I make sense of it and all. And anyway, I have this old kind of mildewy shelf downstairs in my basement. So I took it out today. I went downstairs and washed it earlier. I put a little bleach on it just so that I wasn't touching any mildew. So I killed the mildew, and then I took it up and put it in my car and brought it up here. And then I gave it a really good wash with more bleach and water and soap, Dawn dishwashing liquid. And now I will just let it dry. It's all nice and clean. It has two shelves, one which is freestanding, the other is stationary. And these shelves can be moved up and down at will. And I suppose, you know, if I had another shelf, I could, it would actually be pretty helpful. I don't know if I'll be able to, I might do that. I might get a few more of these little clips if I can find some that are similar. And another shelf that's about 3/4 of an inch if I have one. I'm going to paint this. It's solid wood, and I'm going to do a Zinnser mildew resistant primer. And yep, then I am going to, oh, I'm going to make this so pretty, but I swear I'm going to store my paints in it. Every time I make storage, I make it so pretty I don't want to use it. But yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, so last night I let it dry overnight, this set of shelves. This morning I came in and I removed the back, which had been stapled in. And, you know, it just pulling the staples out has really marred the surface. And look at the plies started coming apart. Now, my plan is to decoupage that, so it's not super important. Like, I could literally pull off those plies and just go over it with a little bit of putty to get a smooth surface. I'm not 100% sure that's what I'm going to do because this needs a lot of repair. You see how it just kind of fell apart when I started pulling it apart. And I did it as gently as I could. And it still just kind of broke apart like that. I hate to spend more money because I went to Lowe's, and I don't really like buying wood from Lowe's, but I got a couple of shelves so that I can. At first, I was going to just buy one more shelf, and then I said, you know what? I think I'm going to buy another one because, you know, when you're storing paints, you know, to have a lot of short shelves is actually handy so that you're not piling cans of paint on one another. So let me reiterate that not saving this, I'm not saving this piece of backing board to restore or anything like that. I really don't care about it. It's just junky plywood. But what I am doing is just making the surface usable for my decoupage. So for that reason, I'm going to glue down a few of the plies that are sticking up, and I'm removing the rest of them. So it's not a restoration. And that's why I'm not using hot glue. I just want to make this solid piece before I start putting decoupage over it. And that's all. I mean, it's sort of what I would do if it was veneer, but not really. I wouldn't make as much mess. It's not really a slurry, but it's very moist. And I put a little bit of glue on it because I really want it to adhere. So that is my Zinnser 123 primer. I'm going to add a little bit of this black chalk paint to make a gray, you know, a dark primer for my paint. Let's start there. Not too much, just enough to make it so that it's not starkly white. Now, when I paint behind the decoupage, I will go back to the white primer. But I need this to dry for a while. I had to make some more alterations. You know, it's hard when you're trying so hard not to spend money. Oh, I wish I could just buy a nice backer board. I don't know. We'll see how this comes out after the second time that I fixed it. If it doesn't come out good enough, I'll have to go back and get a backer board. Yeah, unfortunately. Yep. And I keep this in a covered container so that I can use it again in the future. I don't want to waste anything. Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple coats of shellac on these. And yeah, so let me get a chip brush. And so, yeah, this is just a basic painting primer, and I'm doing, you know, a smooth enough coat. I might do 2 coats, depends. I mean, I've got the shellac on here, so I shouldn't need too many coats for my base layer. But I only need 1 very light coat because it already has a stained and finished surface, so I'm not really worried about my paint sticking, and I'm not worried about bleed through. So I have already gone over this 2.5 times with glue and putty. And this is the side that the decoupage will be going on. I also took it outside. I sanded it a few times. I took it outside and sprayed it with a good dosing of shellac. And now I'm putting on a very heavy coat of my 123 primer. And I will decoupage over that surface. The back side will remain unfinished. It's not in bad condition. And I did go over it with shellac, and I glued down a few pieces that were broken. But it will remain like that. I won't paint the back. And yeah, I've also gone over all the shelves and the outside of the body with my dark primer. And then I filled in a few holes after that, sanded it down, and did another spot coat with the gray primer. And I'm going to let all of that dry overnight. So I'm not as far ahead as I had hoped to be. The prep work is the most important part. So often it just takes longer to get that done properly. But yep, I think I should still be able to get it all done this week, hopefully. And yeah, so I'm going to let that dry overnight and give it a really good surface for my decoupage tomorrow morning. So what I have to do is I have to place this somewhere logical so that obviously it's not going to take up the whole panel. So I'm going to paint around it. But I want to make sure that I get the best view, yeah, based on what I have here. And so what I was thinking of doing was kind of clipping it on there, or maybe I'll put a piece of tape or two and then kind of put on where I might put the shelves potentially. So let's do that. Now my first thought is I am going to have it closer to the top because naturally that's where you're going to be looking at it from rather than below. So It doesn't have to be centered horizontally, um, but I think I'm going to go, I might go even a little bit higher. So yeah, let's see where this might be. And this way I can change it. Okay. Close. I mean, as long as I have it close, I just want to see where the shelves will line up. I think that's a good placement for it. So this is a redesign with Prima transfer. It's a rice paper. It's called a, what's it called? A fiber, they're calling it, but to me, I would call that a rice paper. And the style is burst of color, and that's exactly what it is. It's gorgeous. Um, and I'm going to paint around it, and I'm going to paint the shelves to match. So it's an A1 size, in case you're wondering that. So almost 24 by 32 in a way, 23.4 times 33.1. And that's the size of the A1. They do make a bigger version. It's the A0. I don't know if they make this particular pattern in it, but I thought this would be uh, acceptable. Do I wish it covered the whole thing? Sure. But that will give me time to play with the actual artwork and paint around it. So yeah, I mean, in a way, that's fun too, right? So let's get this set up. Now this material is very porous, so when you put the decoupage gel medium over the top, it just seeps right through and creates a very nice tight bond to the surface below. I've got my Aleene's premium decoupage, and it's in matte. And I will pour it into a little container. And my container also has a cover in case I want to go over it. I shook up the material as well. Okay, so this color is right out of the jar, and it is Peacock. And I'm not exactly 100% sure how I'm going to like it, but I am going to put that as a first coat. So, and I'm just using a cheaper kind of Chinet flat bristle brush. I think it's a combination natural and synthetic bristles, and it should give me a smooth-ish finish. And like I said, this is just a first coat. So, and I want to see what the color looks like as it dries, because they always look a little different. And now you can see why I wanted to use a grade base, so that primer, I mean a grade primer, so that I'm not fighting a stark white coat of paint underneath my palette here. Look, buddy, we can't live together. That's it. It's over. Okay, so I created a couple of palettes, one lighter, one darker, with a number of different kinds of paints. Actually, only two. I apologize. So I'm using the Paint Couture and a couple of old Dixie Belle colors. And just based on the way that this artwork looks, to me, it doesn't look like it has been painted per se. It looks like there's some brush marks in it, but there's also some knife edge. So I took a couple of straight edges here, and I can use that as a instead of a brush on parts of it. Um, and hopefully, I have enough colors to kind of match it. The base of it is going to be the dark blue green over here. So I'm going to start with that, and I'll start at the bottom with the darkest part of it, and then I'll kind of build up, and I'll work this in afterwards over my colors, because if you look at it, you can tell that these go over, some of them do, over the dark blue. So let's play with that. Hi, how you doing?
Very wonderful location.
You found me up here.
I certainly did. I'm a sleuth.
So even though I would have wanted to get that line so that it didn't show, and this is not it, by the way, this is something that's actually in the painting itself, in the artwork. So, you know, it's weird. It sort of kind of matches anyway. And if you stand back, you can't really see it. So yeah, I think that's going to work out just fine. I have to shave a little off of my shelf. Just because, you know, putting a few layers of paint on does make a difference. And I have to vacuum that up and do some clear coats. Yeah, so I should have, these holes were already drilled. These are the old bolts, but I had to drill new ones for another shelf. And what I did was, I should have recorded it, I guess, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be actually good enough to record it. But I put, you know, I put clamps on 4 sides, and then I placed the shelf in and measured it, you know, adjusted it until it was level. And then I put some pen marks, and then I drilled below the pen marks about 1/4 of an inch, and it came out so perfect. But perfection at this stage, when I'm doing something like this, I can't count on it. I guess I should have recorded it, but I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough enthusiasm to think that I was going to show you a good job, but I did it. So I did a second coat of clear coat on my artwork, and then I put a little bit of the color in some clear coat. This is acrylic clear coat, and I put a little bit of color in it, and I'm going to use the dense foam roller when I put it on. I'm going to go over it with a little bit of the Howard Citrus Shield beeswax. It's just a great way to finalize this finish. I love wax because it has a good moisture preventative sealant as part of its profile. Thank you for watching this week's video. This week I took a, it was a long time coming. I had removed my paints from storage where I had them stored. I refinished that piece of furniture, but then I never had a place to put my paints. So I had an old shelf downstairs in the basement. I took that shelf out, brought it up to the barn, and refinished it. It's a solid wood shelf. So what I did, I painted it, and I put a decoupage paper on the backing of it. And then I painted around that decoupage. I added one more shelf. I actually was going to add 2 shelves, but when I started putting it together, I realized it's just not really big enough for 2 more shelves, so it got 1 more shelf, which I hope is enough. You can subtly see the artwork behind it, which I think is pretty. I love the color. It's a paint couture, and I'll list all the products that I use because I used quite a few paints around the decoupage. I did some acrylic clear coats. I did some wax on it, and yeah, I think it came out pretty good. I like it. I love the color, and it's very cheerful. Now I have to wait 30 days before I can store paints in it because wax takes quite a few days to cure. So there's that. Yeah. Oh. It did take me literally all week. I just barely finished for the video this week. And so it just, you know, it always takes me longer than I think. But anyway, it wasn't a bad thing to do. It wasn't too bad. I love that decoupage paper. It is a Redesign by Prima, or Redesign with Prima. And like I said, I'll list all the products at the end of the video. So yeah, thank you so much if you've watched this far. I really want to thank you. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and thank you to everyone who pretty much watches every week. It's so good to see you here, and I actually love chatting too, so I'm thankful for that. Yeah, and have a great rest of your weekend, and I wish you all good and beautiful things. Take care.